All right, I have 6:30. Are we ready, Laura, to go ahead? Are we all on?
Yes, you're good.
I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Cherry Hills Village City Council for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Laura, could we have a roll call of members, please?
Counselor Safavi?
Here.
Counselor Wheel?
Glad to be here.
Counselor Brown?
Here.
Counselor Gallagher?
Here.
Counselor Sheldon?
Here.
Counselor Blum?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I understand that we have nobody sign up for the audience participation or for the reports from the city boards or commissions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to remove 5A, the approval of the minutes.
Certainly. Any other removals?
I move to approve consent agenda items 5B, C, D, E, and F.
Second.
Give a roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Safavi?
Yes.
Sorry, Counselor Safavi?
Yes.
Counselor Wheel?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Gallagher?
Yes.
Counselor Sheldon?
Yes.
Counselor Blum?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Councilor Sheldon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to spend a moment on the minutes from our last meeting on January 5th. I don't know that it's a change necessarily that I'm looking forward to the minutes, but I did want to point out, I believe, a couple of statements that were made by the public that I'd like to clarify. Page 2 of the minutes from Jerry Neff, first line, it states that, and these did happen exactly as planned. I went back and listened again. And Jerry Neff states that that last summer the city approached Natalie Anderson about the possibility of her family taking back the farm. And then at the bottom of page 3, Eric Jamrich suggests the same thing, that the city approached the Anderson family, who then put forth a proposal to take the property back. Again, I'm not looking to change history here, because those are actually the words that those two residents used in their testimony. But I would like to point out that that is not exactly what happened. I believe that Russell reached out to Natalie Anderson on his own, and not in a not necessarily in a city capacity. And if it was in a city capacity, it was done so without my knowledge. So I just want to set that record straight, that this discussion that occurred at the last meeting, and a lot of discussion that's happened over the past several months about the city reaching out to Miss Anderson about taking back or conveying the property back to the Anderson heirs, is not exactly right as far as I understand it. And if anybody wants to chime in and correct me on that, I'm happy to hear it. But I would like to make sure that everyone understands that this is not how it's actually gone down, and that Russell, maybe, I don't know if it's up to you to make this determination, or for Kathy, or I just don't know. When these neighbors are saying that the city approached Miss Anderson about this, were you doing it on behalf of the city, or were you doing it on behalf of Russell Stewart?
Well, thanks for raising this. I think it's a good point, Dan. I never approached it. Now, here's how it went down. The first thing that I know about that ever happened was a meeting between Natalie and Lucinda Green and Cosina Vanderwerth on the property. And they walked the property, and that was the first time that Ms. Anderson raised the possibility of the Anderson family having some interest in taking back, in doing something, taking title. So it was not, these statements that were made here are incorrect by the citizens. That isn't how it happened. We didn't approach her. She first raised it with Lucinda Green and Cosina Vanderwerth in a meeting on the property when she discussed it.
Right, but
it was frankly, I think, to be fair, it was a joint discussion. I mean, Natalie had been attending many Quincy Farm Committee meetings. I'd had long discussions, with her, obviously she was representative of the family. But no, we didn't. These statements that we approached her or I approached her are not correct. But I'm not sure that it matters really. So I don't know that it needs correcting. But
I totally agree with you. It doesn't matter. It's history now, but it doesn't matter moving forward. I just wanted to make sure that, if nothing else, those who might be on watching tonight's meeting, if any of these people who are interested in Quincy Farm happen to be listening in tonight, I don't believe that the way that their testimony was given during the meeting on the 5th, at least with respect to Jerry Neff and Eric Jamrich, were accurate. I agree with you, Russell. They were not accurate. We're agreeing about it. I think we're agreeing on the same thing. It's news to me that certain members of various committees reached out to Natalie or discussed it out on site with her. But I do believe you did mention in one of the prior meetings that we were in that you did pick up the phone and call her. And actually, I think Katie Brown asked the question to Natalie, who called who. And again, it doesn't matter. I just want to clarify that these folks are not portraying what actually happened correctly. Because the city, when I say the city, I'm talking about the elected body. The elected body did not reach out to Ms. Anderson and solicit a proposal from her for this, that started this whole process. Are we all in agreement on that?
oh yeah, that's absolutely true.
Okay, that's it. So unless anyone else has any other comment on this, I am ready to put it back on for approval.
So I have one question then. Is it necessary? I mean, I agree that it's, history is history, but I was not at the meeting. And so from reading these minutes, I'm getting the impression that these residents feel like the city is being underhanded and because we approached her and now we're taking it back. And so I agree that it doesn't exactly matter, but I do think that it matters moving forward in the sense that I don't know that we'll be able to move forward with residents who feel that the city has acted in that way. And so I'm wondering if it warrants trying to reach out to these, I guess it would probably be Natalie and Jerry Neff and Eric Jamrich who've expressed that sentiment, just to say, let's, you seem to have an understanding of this. That's not exactly our understanding, and we need to start at a place of sort of a common set of information, because otherwise, if I were them and that's it, and I believed that that's what happened, I'd probably be a little upset too, and maybe rightfully so. You reached out to me and now you're backpedaling and pulling the plug. That's kind of uncool. So do we need to reach out to them and try to clarify?
I don't think that's a bad idea, Katie, and it may just be something as simple as asking either our city clerk or city manager to reach out to those specifically those impacted people that you referenced and say, hey, if you weren't on the meeting last night, please make sure you listen in and go to 4 minutes into the meeting or whatever, and we just want you to understand a little piece of what happened last night, a clarification for your reference.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And it seems that just us being on record here, having this discussion helps clarify things.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think
thank you.
all that's necessary right now with the RFP going forward, or if it does, I mean, that's kind of, I'm not sure that this is that important, but I think going on record now is important, and I think it's a good thing to do. And Dan, I would say that you kind of said that you were unaware that the two people, I don't think that they reached out. I don't think our members, I think that the request to meet on site was Natalie. So, and I don't know that it was, really, I think it was a joint thing as much as anything else. So, the meeting on the site, I don't think that Lucinda and Christina reached out in that sense to them, so, to Natalie. So, But that, I think the only people who would really know would be Clissina and Lucinda.
Okay.
So anyway, I think this has probably done it, and I think that's a great idea for our city manager to, if it ever comes up with Natalie. I know that we have the city manager and Kathy who are our negotiating team, so they can talk to Natalie.
Okay, so with that, Mayor Pro Tem, if you want to move this to approval, I'd support it.
Yes, I move to approve consent agenda item 5A.
Second.
Roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Safavi,
Yes.
Counselor Wheel,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes,
Counselor Gallagher,
Yes.
Counselor Sheldon,
Yes.
Counselor Blum.
Yes.
Okay, that takes care of item 5 on the consent agenda. No unfinished business. New business, not really business because we won't need to take any action on it, but it's just simply a discussion probably of the council retreat agenda. City manager?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I had a chance to offline or one-on-one send some information out about the upcoming retreat on February 2nd. Just as a quick reminder, that will be a Zoom call that day. It is the day of a council meeting, but wanted to finalize tonight a draft agenda. Again, nothing on here is new, but just wanted to, before it got to be too late, we wanted to make sure that we had the right agenda and that we were hitting all the right notes that council wanted to discuss. And so in short, there's really 2 parts. One is a budget discussion that has a few different moving pieces, an update to the Gallagher Amendment and what that means for us long-term, for our long-term financial plan, a discussion about the interrelationship between the general fund, capital fund, parks fund. I would expect that to probably be a majority of the conversation based on my conversations with many of you. Also some tax related issues that probably get mixed in there as well. The review of the Wayfair decision and how that might relate to the new online sales tax remittance system that the state is getting up and running. And then also an overall discussion about construction use tax and and its relationship to an overall use tax. The other big item on the agenda that I heard from folks was just, and it's really not big, it's a discussion about the Highline Canal and really a discussion about the next few years and the steps that the city is going to be taking related to the canal. Specifically, there's a budgeted dollar amount for a study of the city's efforts in the canal in 2021. And so a discussion with council about what's included in that. And also talk a little bit about what the long-term expectations might be in regards to maintenance. The city will likely have to take over maintenance responsibilities of the canal and what that looks like and how we can start budgeting for that, et cetera. So that one really is it is a longer term, so it's a little bit more strategic, but it will not take nearly the time that the budget item will take. So that's what I heard from council members. If there is anything else, speak now, because we're right at the end of the opportunity for staff to put together a quality packet for council.
Chris, this is Al. My question is, can we add anything on the cell coverage or an update at the retreat as to where we are with Zayo and some of the other people we talked to?
Yeah, we Russell and Katie and I talked about that as a potential item, and we thought that might be better as a study session item simply because it will probably be ongoing. And I think the strategic decision to pursue this effort has already really been made. And so it's an ongoing operational effort by the council members and Jay and myself about just trying to keep pursuing, especially with Zayo, those efforts. So we thought a study session might be a better avenue. However, it is certainly council's call.
I have no problem being a study session item. Can we set that on one of the next council meetings to discuss that as a study session? I know Randy and I have talked about it previously, and we ought to start pushing on that.
You bet. We will get that added.
Thank you.
I will likely recommend not adding it for the second meeting in February, as that's the Denver First Church night, and that will likely take some time. So we'll try and find another night.
Okay, very good.
And just to also add in that we also discussed whether to discuss Quincy Farm, but that will be the
That night.
subject of the council meeting later that same night. So we felt like, it would be better to do it in a more public forum where people have easier access to the meeting in the evening rather than during the day. And B, that if we discussed it during the day, there wouldn't be much to discuss at night, or we would just be repeating ourselves. So
Okay.
Okay, if there are no further thoughts about the agenda, or I'm sorry, Chris, you're raising your
Yeah,
hand.
Mr. Mayor, one quick follow-up. If I could, I'm going to just push just a tiny bit. If there are specific elements or background or reports that council would find helpful in their finance and budget, long-range budget discussions, Jessica and I would love to hear that now so that we can make sure that that packet has all the tools that you need, that council needs to have a meaningful conversation. So if you know of, obviously we're going to include the latest long-term, budgeted forecast for each one of the funds, and some basic background information. But if there's other elements that that would be helpful, we certainly would love to make sure that we provide the best packet possible.
That's great. What's your schedule, Chris, for getting the packet out? When are you going to circulate this? Is it?
We're hoping to circulate it the same day that the regular council packet goes out, so the Wednesday before.
So that's a week from tomorrow.
This, Al, can
Yes.
we have Jessica look at the surface expansion fees, how much those have been paid over the last 2 years?
Yes, I'll make sure I include that with the construction and use tax memo.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
very good. And I've got some outside research I've done with Greenwood Village, so I can add that to you, Jessica. I may call you on that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Jessica, you're going to include the letter that went out to the community on construction use? That
From before, from Alex Brown?
Yes, exactly.
We can pull that and include that as well.
That was the one that said a tax is not a tax.
Yes.
Exactly.
didn't go over very well.
Much better way to handle it.
This is great, though. This is exactly the kind of information I'm hoping to hear from tonight. So
Well, I think, yeah, now that you mentioned it too, that I had two other thoughts. I know that Kathy wrote 2 memos on use tax that probably should be in the packet so people can get a feel for that and the history behind Wayfair and use tax. And I think, one was from like 7 years ago and one was maybe 2 years ago. Is that right, Kathy?
Well, I wasn't around 7 years ago, and neither was the Wayfair decision. I mean, I was around, but not around y'all. We did write a memo 2 years ago when in the very recent history, Wayfair was in pretty recent history, and the state was in the process of figuring out next steps. Some progress has been made on that front in the last 2 years, significant progress. And we do plan on, we can provide the background memo, that historic memo for historic purposes, but we do plan on working with Director Sager to update you on what the state's been up to and what kind of options are available to the city.
That'd be great. And I think your memo actually incorporates an earlier memo that was written by
It might have been one by Maureen Duran, which was even years before.
Well, and it talks specifically about the city code and the how it deals with location and sales tax.
That's right. That's the bricks and mortar type of, and the prior to Wayfair, there was the Nexus that was required that has shifted with our technology. So I'll include both of those. Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, I think Kathy and I the city attorney, Geckenberger, and I had talked about her really kind of being on call that day as opposed to, being there throughout. But it does sound like it may be helpful for at least when we get to the Wayfair and use tax conversation for City Attorney Guckenberger to join us for that part of it.
I think that's a good idea.
I would agree.
Okay.
Any other comments about the agenda? Like I said, like Chris said, if you have any inspiration in the shower, let them tomorrow morning, let them know, and they can pull together a packet for us. And I think that'll be, I like the agenda. I think it's focused and on important issues. So that'd be good to discuss. All right, if there are no other comments about that, then we can recess city council meeting for a few minutes and call to order the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village Charlevoix Park Third Filing General Improvement District Board. It is now 6:50. Laura, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Safavi?
Here.
Board Member Wheel?
Still happy to be here.
Board Member Brown?
Here,
Chair Stewart?
Here.
Board Member Gallagher?
Here.
Board Member Sheldon?
Here.
Board Member Blum?
Here,
Okay. We have on first thing, the only item really on the agenda is consent agenda item 11A. Is there a motion or removal?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
second,
The motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Laura, could you take a roll call, please?
Board Member Safavi?
Yes.
Board Member Wheel? Board Member Brown?
Yes,
Chair Stewart?
Yes.
Board Member Gallagher?
Yes.
Board Member Sheldon?
Yes.
Board Member Blum?
yes,
Okay. Unless somebody has some new business, speak now or forever hold your peace, board members. Hearing none, I'll move without objection. We'll adjourn the meeting of the board and reconvene. The meeting of Cherry Hills Village City Council is now 6:52 p.m. And we'll go directly into reports. And I can start. I can have a brief report here. First of all, I want to thank Public Works for the Christmas tree mulching and everything. Appreciate that's a great service, so that those trees don't get put into the landfill and they actually get used. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. On a related issue, I was contacted by a resident this last week about suggesting compostable dog poop bags for our trails. And as part of that, she sent me some information from, apparently Lafayette and Boulder have a dog waste composting program. It's kind of interesting. It keeps, it keeps all the dog poop out of the landfills and they compost it and turn it into something. I'm not sure exactly how, but it's something we might want to, PTRC might want to follow up on. It's kind of an interesting idea. Maybe we can see if Greenwood Village has any other interest too. And I can talk to the people, the mayors in Lafayette about it and see what they're, apparently it's successful. I'm curious about how much they're spending on it each year. We did have a call with the Tri-County Health. Dr. Douglas was talking today about this afternoon about the COVID numbers. He said that they really do look very good. We are in the orange numbers now, and we could even go yellow. He also mentioned that there was discussion above his pay grade from the governor and others about revising the numbers in the COVID dial. And I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about, but it may be that they're making it, they're going to make it easier, more responsive to move to orange to yellow and to kind of reopen things. So that's the hope anyway. And he described as good news on the vaccine front. They're rolling out tens of thousands of vaccines a week as fast as they can get them from the suppliers, and more vaccines are on their way. And studies will be done, maybe getting approval within the next 2 or 3 weeks. As far as my assignments, on the 7th of January, we had a Metro Mayor's call, and it was mostly all about COVID again, like they all are. On the 11th, I had attended a swearing in. It was by Zoom of the county commissioners, and we have a new county commissioner, Carrie Warren Gully, who is representing our area now, we probably want to invite her in sometime to speak to our council, just to make, to introduce. It'd be nice when we get back and meeting in person, maybe we can think about that. On the 13th, I attended the CML legislative workshop that kind of went over some of the legislation that's coming out and be planned in this General Assembly. I think I've kind of gone over some of the highlights with you before. On the 15th, the policy committee had its meeting, and we went through, that was not as much, that was mostly focused on some of the higher level policies and that the committee and the board follow with regard to issues. The next, going forward on the 21st, the Metro Mayor's Caucus will have its annual meeting, and I'll be attending that. That's again by Zoom. And then on the 22nd, that's Friday, it's the CML Executive Board meeting will be most of the day. Also, on the 28th, if anybody's interested, the Arapahoe County 18th Judicial District has a Judge Appreciation Day. And it's all the judges, but also our new DA, John Kellner, will be there. And he's somebody else who we might want to invite in. He was newly elected. He was the chief assistant DA before George Brockler was term limited. So John is a good guy, and I'm sure he'd say yes if we invited him to the city council to introduce himself sometime. That's my report. Councilors, Councilor Blum,
No report.
Councilor Sheldon,
No report.
Councilor Gallagher.
I just want to recognize the anonymous donation of $15,000 to the police department. Whoever that person is, thank you very much. And it will be well used. Hey, I suppose a question for Afshin. Where's the foundation, or what status on foundation?
Yep. So Mike, we're making good progress, and we talked to a handful of people, and I would say in the past, probably since COVID started, we haven't made any progress, at least from my end. I have not been in any one of those meetings. And Chief, I don't know if you have had any other meetings after our last set of conversations. And I know, Russell, you talked to, I forgot the gentleman's name that was going to go ahead and lead the efforts for the committee.
Mark,
I can add a little bit to that if you'd like.
Sure.
Mr. Griffin and I have talked a couple of times. He has made arrangements for an in-kind type of donation for someone to do all the legal paperwork regarding getting us registered at the state. And my understanding from him is that's gone a little bit slower than he had anticipated, but I don't think that any of us really anticipated what effects COVID might have. But you know, he's still very attached to the project and trying to move forward with all that paperwork.
Perfect. And just one more quick question: is the administrative assistant that was taking care of the Greenwood Village, supporting them? Is she going to be supporting us still?
You know, I can't answer that exactly yet because we're just not at that phase yet, sir. But, you know, she acted very interested in that, in helping us out. I don't know if Mr. Griffin has reached out to her just yet, but once I talk to him here after the first of the year settles down, we'll be looking into a lot of that stuff.
Great. Thank you very much. For that.
You bet. And if I might, since the donation was brought up, yes, this family is very, very generous and not new to us with regard to this. And working with the city manager and Jessica, at this time, barring some other need, we're going to put that money into an escrow account and keep it on the burner for our big body camera project, which will be coming up before you know it. Time goes way too fast with those projects. So that's what we're hoping to do.
I think that's a great idea, Chief. Although we're going to do our best to get the state to fund some of our body cameras, Chief. So, we'll see what CML can do on that. Hopefully that that truly was an unfunded mandate from the state to tell all the cities and municipalities in the state that they had to pay for those on their own. So.
Right,
Well,
right.
That's the
And the
beauty of
governor, I've heard the governor is sympathetic to that too. So we may see something in the legislation.
Well, that's the beauty of the escrow approach, because then we can pivot if we are so lucky that we don't have to fund those. So, I think we're all very excited about this approach.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
So just a couple things. Interesting when you were talking about newly elected people. I got a notice from LinkedIn that George Brockler is now a prosecutor for the 18th Judicial District.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but because it's just LinkedIn, but I thought that was interesting. Also received a couple of notices over the last few weeks from NOISE, which is the National Organization to Ensure a Sound Controlled Environment. And that is the group that primarily is advocating around air traffic noise issues. That I received notices from NOISE that the FAA has released the findings of its neighborhood environmental survey. And it was I skimmed it. It's not that long of a document, but it was really interesting. The net takeaway for me was that they had done research back in the 70s to identify what level of noise is considered annoying to people. And originally it encompassed all kinds of noise. They went back so it's been 50 years, literally. They went back and renewed that survey, and they found that specifically as it relates to air traffic noise, the percentage of people who are highly annoyed by even very relatively low amounts of air traffic noise has tripled or even quadrupled in some cases. It is a significant increase. They haven't exactly said how that data will impact anything, but it's an interesting study with, I think, some pretty significant findings. They are accepting, it says we're in the process of reviewing the findings, the FAA is accepting comments up until March 15th. So if anyone is interested in reviewing that survey and submitting your comments, I think that would probably be a great plan. I think this survey is demonstrating what people in this community have kind of been saying for a long time, which is that these levels that the FAA say are, no significant impact are in fact a really significant impact in people's perceived use of the noise. And that's as compared to traffic noise. It wasn't done in a vacuum. People are more highly annoyed by aircraft noise than they are by other forms of noise. They don't really go into, they just say we need to study why that might be. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Wheel.
Thanks. Thanks, Russell. Nothing new in the neighborhood. Dr. Cog, the topics that were part of the working session and then on the agenda for tomorrow night are with the signature of the Federal Surface Transportation Block Grant. There's about $53 million, which is got to be allocated to transportation improvement projects in the area. And so it looks like several projects are going to be moved forward, accelerated a bit. And there's a bit of urgency toward or a bias toward acceleration in the interest of keeping the economy. The closest ones that have any impact on our area are set of Santa Fe, improvements on Santa Fe, and then I-25 and Broadway interchange. I kept an eye peeled for the intersection of I-25 and Hamden, but didn't see any change going on there. That's kind of in the study stage anyway. Well, also a lot of talk about environment and the link there between transportation and environment and ways to move to some degree or alternative modes of transportation to help on the environment. And in the work session also, a number of cities were talking about plans that they had to really drive some improvement in their carbon footprint, energy efficiency, sustainability, which was also pretty interesting. Bunch of procedural things. I don't know that it makes any difference to us, but they're looking to change the fiscal year to get on to a, rather than being concurrent with a calendar year, looking to change that to more of a government budgetary year. So that July 1 through June 30. Otherwise, that's all the news from there. End of report.
Mayor, you're on mute.
You're muted, Russell.
Sorry. Thank you, Councilor Wheel. Councilor Savati, report.
No reports other than just want to quickly state as a sort of a reminder to the community that, although we're being vaccinated, people who are vaccinated doesn't mean that you're not a carrier or you could be a carrier. So just continue wearing those masks and use the gels and wash the hands and take all the precautions. And I'm glad to see that the numbers are slowly going down, at least before the spring break starts again. So that's all.
Thank you. Yeah, we're a lot better than California for whatever reason. City manager report.
Yes, I might have. Yes, actually, so that I don't steal the thunder of what the director's reports might be, I'm going to let them go first tonight just to make sure. If you have a report, if not, that's fine too. But I thought I would go last, and that way I don't step on toes. So, Jay, do you want to start?
Sure, I've got a couple quick reports. I met with XL today. XL has been potholing for the last few months. It seems Comcast and CenturyLink slipped in before XL could meet with them and put their new underground lines in. So XL has been having some issues trying to find a spot in the right of way they can underground those lines. I think we've got it worked out today, so they will finish their potholing and hopefully begin their boring before February 1st. Emily and I met with the contractor for John Mead Park today. They actually began construction on the few corrections that need to be made to the playground today. If weather holds and they can continue to work, everything should be done in a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then we will bring out our playground specialist one last time to take a look at that and get that open to the public just as quick as we can. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jay. Hey, Jay, I have one question. Is that going to affect all of Quincy or just from Quincy to Holly, that the way the other carriers were undergrounding? Do you know?
Right now, it's just the current project, Quincy to Holly. I've suggested to XL that they don't coordinate these undergrounding projects. They leave it up to us. I asked to all of them to meet and coordinate. That never happened. So next time we'll make sure that doesn't happen. And we will require XL to sit down with those others before so we can work out who goes where to make everything a lot easier for everybody.
Good. Okay.
Director
Another
Sager,
director's
do you have
report?
anything?
I do not have a report tonight.
And Chief, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I just have a couple of things. First of all, your police department continues to stay healthy. I'm very happy to report. We have several people who have either had their first COVID vaccination or have appointments to do so. And I'm very pleased about that. It took a little bit of work, but we're getting it done. And then secondly, for the inauguration tomorrow, just to let you all know, we have a couple of extra cars working. We have kind of a bit of an operations plan. It's hard to do an operations plan when you don't know what exactly you're planning for, but we've made some plans regarding anything that could or possibly go on in the city or with our neighbors. And then in addition to those 2 extra cars, the folks who are training from home will be on call for the periods of time that they should be at work to make sure that if we needed extra people, they would be available right away. And then additionally, I was on a Zoom call last week that was held by the Colorado Department of Public Safety at CSP, CBI, and all these folks weighing in. And again, there's no real viable intel that anything would be going on in the city of Cherry Hills Village. They're taking care of protecting the Capitol and a couple of other things, but we're prepared for anything that might go on tomorrow. So I'm sure it will all go smooth, but just to let you know that. And that's all I had, unless anybody had any questions for me.
No, read your report. Thank you for that too in the packet, Chief. We appreciate that update too, and we also appreciate the push out you did for the I think it was about fraud that was going on.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Mayor. I'm sorry I forgot about that. The unemployment scams that are going on right now are prevalent. Jessica was kind enough. We've got an article coming up in the Crier. And then we also put it out on our website. We've done some good homework with that. I had a sergeant do some really nice homework with that we're able to provide citizens with information with regard to who to contact at the state. And then we're additionally documenting it also. But I think one thing I'd like to say about that is these folks are probably putting this information out and then hoping that they can catch these credit cards that come through the mail. So I know we've talked about that many times here in the village. I think we still have some folks that don't like to pick up their mail every day. I would just strongly urge that you do that when you go on vacations, make arrangements to stop the mail, have somebody else pick it up, get a locking mailbox, which helps a little. But please be very aware of your mail and any suspicious activity during the day, especially when mail's being delivered. Please give dispatch a call and we'll go out and check it out. But thank you, sir, for that reminder.
You're welcome. Anybody else? City Manager now. It sounds
Yes.
like it's up to you.
Yeah, so just a couple of quick updates for you. I don't have as much as I normally do for you tonight. On just a quick update on the 5-star program, we still only have the one approved organization, Glenmore Country Club. There was a call today about the 5-star program, and the applications have fallen off a cliff because everybody's in orange, and the added investment, I don't think folks see the return on. Right. I feel really bad for, there's a lot of folks, especially at the county, but also in some of the larger cities, who spent just tons of hours, building this program from the ground up. And I don't think it's going to end up doing what they had hoped. So, but we will continue to support it nonetheless, should anybody apply. The other item that I have for council, this past week at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Denver First Church case was heard. And in conjunction with that, that means it's now going to be scheduled for City Council. I did want to provide just a quick note to City Council members about the process that we're going to be using for the first and second reading. Historically, this is all procedure is really all we're talking about. There's nothing from a substantive relative to the cases themselves, but procedurally, for some ordinances in the past, like text amendments, we've had staff present at both the first and second reading, and council vote on, in essence, the content or the facts of the case for both. For a lot of our rezonings or land use cases that have an ordinance, historically, there's been a few different examples, but it does seem like predominantly it's been the first reading where the public hearing occurs. Now that we have the code modernization, and after speaking with City Attorney Guckenberger, we are going to modify the process slightly, whereby the first reading will really just be reading the title and setting the case, and setting up the public hearing for the second reading that would occur. So if we think about the Denver First just by way of schedule only, the first reading is scheduled to be February 16th. So on that night, there really wouldn't be an opportunity, the staff would not do a full-blown presentation. There really wouldn't be an opportunity for the public to speak. The applicant would not do their presentation. It would really be to set the stage for the second reading. So the second reading is where staff would do a full presentation. The applicants could propose or present. The public has their opportunity to participate. And obviously then council could have their full deliberation and motion that come out of that. So I think this does represent a slight adjustment, but I think from a legal perspective, I think there's some good reasons to do this. The idea that we were previously having council really debate twice was not an approach I was supportive of at all. I think there's an opportunity for council in that circumstance to get out ahead of hearing from the public, maybe even make some statements without having the benefit of all the evidence. And so, this approach, I think, is supported from a legal perspective. I also think it works from a logistical process flow. So for the first reading of Denver First on the 16th, it will not be the full show. It will just be really setting the stage for the second reading. So again, that's mostly procedural, but I didn't want you to be caught off guard since we've handled these in a few different ways over the years. And I will just make sure if anybody has any questions before I leave that.
No, but I might just add in that what Chris just described is not out of the ordinary. A lot of the jurisdictions that I work in operate the same way that Chris just described. Not all of them, but some of them do. Many of them do. So it was no surprise to me when he brought it up to me and suggested that might be a change coming. I said, yeah, it sounds reasonable to me. So that's just my 2 cents.
There are some other jurisdictions that even on the first reading, they actually just put it on consent. We will not be going that far. There's a few different reasons. One, we don't want to do it out of the gate like that because I think it would be too abrupt of a change. But second of all, as Kathy can talk about, our ordinance requires a voice vote. And so it really can't be on consent, even if we were wanting it that way. But we really don't want it that way. We'll just introduce the topic, set the date for the second reading, have you guys vote on that, and then have the primary public hearing then on the second reading.
Chris, I think it's important for you to explain, or maybe I'm going to explain it right now, that one of the reasons that you're proposing this, I believe, is so that anything that comes up from the first reading where the date gets set till 2 weeks later, or two plus or minus 2 weeks later, to the second reading, at the second reading is when the public hearing portion of it would occur. If there's more testimony that comes in, more letters from the public that were to come in, additional facts that were to be uncovered, any of those kind of things that happen between first and second, you can at least take them into consideration then for the second when you're getting all your information presented and you have all your facts then at that second hearing, whereby you might not at the first.
And yeah, completely right. And that's where it would be unfortunate if council members then started, deliberating or debating because they were getting ready to vote.
At the first, you're talking about.
on the first reading. Yeah. And all of a sudden, then they start making some statements and all the evidence vis-a-vis testimony, letters. Council hasn't had the benefit of that yet. And so there might be an opportunity where council says things that they don't agree with after if they would have heard all that testimony. So
Right.
I think it makes, I'm much more comfortable with it. I'm much more comfortable with it primarily because I think it puts council in a much better position to succeed and really have thoughtful decisions. I think Kathy's also comfortable with it from a legal perspective and best practices perspective. So again, nothing for you to do. Our code is set up now to handle this just fine. I just didn't want you all to be surprised. And that's my report.
Thank you guys for coming up with that, Kathy and Chris. Appreciate it.
I agree. I think that's good. I went back and read our rules too, and that is more consistent with Article 4 in our rules of procedure. I mean, an ordinance is the same thing. The first reading is really just supposed to be a reading where it's announced so that people can, so that they can start understanding that it's coming up in the second reading. And the second reading should be the reading where all of the evidence is produced, and then we have your full vetted. And that's the way we're set up for ordinances in our rules and procedures. We might, want to think about amending our rules and procedures too, just to incorporate these kinds of quasi judicial as well. But I agree that the first reading is not the one where we should have a full blown. We shouldn't have the staff having to do a full blown presentation of the first reading and the second reading. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the purpose of the first reading. So I think Chris has exactly right. Okay. Any other? If Chris is done, how about our city attorney? Any comments? Any thoughts?
Well, I'll just step in on that note, that topic rather. The charter, it just says that you can introduce on first reading in by title only or full text. So I think it's implied, really. I mean, you can't really have much of a discussion if you introduce something by title only. Not that that's always done, but I just think that's the implication. And I don't think it's a bad idea to clarify your rules so that we can have it for posterity as opposed to remembering what we did that one time. Wasn't it during COVID when we decided this? And so I think it's a good idea. Other than that, I'll say I just heard in another jurisdiction last night that unemployment compensation fraud is rampant everywhere, and it is all through the mail. So echo what the chief is saying. That's just a big problem, and I don't anticipate it going away anytime soon. Other than that, I have no report.
Very good. Okay. Do I hear anything else before I ask for a motion or ask for unanimous consent to adjourn? Is there any objection to adjourning? Hearing no objection, well, it's 7:22. Will City Council be adjourned? Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.